Welcome back, everybody. We are diving into something really interesting in the world of global trade today.
Yeah.
And that is, for the first time in over 20 years,
Wow.
Mexico has overtaken China as the U.S.'s top trading partner.
That was a huge deal.
It is a huge deal, and we've got some great reporting from CNBC and some hard data from freight analytics firms like Zenata and Vesselbot to really help us make sense of this.
Right.
But the big question is, how is China leveraging this shift to sidestep U.S. tariffs?
Yeah.
And what does this all mean for you?
Well, it's a fascinating story that really takes us back to 2018
Right.
when the trade war between the U.S. and China was heating up.
Yeah.
And all those tariffs on Chinese goods
Right.
really kind of forced companies to think outside the box,
Oh, I agree.
to find some workarounds to get their products into the U.S. market.
So Mexico being right there
Exactly.
became a very convenient solution.
Exactly. It's like textbook nearshoring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moving production closer to your target market.
Right.
Mexico's proximity, existing trade relationships. Yeah.
Really made it the ideal choice for Chinese businesses to avoid those tariffs.
So it's not just about supplying Mexican consumers.
No.
This is about using Mexico as a strategic
Springboard.
exactly,
Yeah.
into the U.S.
Big time.
But how big of a shift are we talking here?
The numbers are huge.
Okay.
In 2023, Mexican imports to the U.S. hit $475 billion.
Wow.
That's a full $20 billion more than China.
Okay.
And it's not slowing down. In the first 8 months of 2024,
Yeah.
we saw a 5.8% increase in imports from Mexico.
Wow. So that's a pretty clear sign that this isn't just temporary.
This is the new normal.
This is it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but how exactly does this backdoor strategy work?
So a key player here is USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement,
Okay.
which, of course, replaced NAFTA just 4 years ago.
Right.
And it has this really interesting loophole
Right.
that's playing a big role here.
Okay, so walk me through it.
Sure.
How does USMCA help China get around those tariffs?
It's all about substantial transformation.
Okay.
Under the rules, if a Chinese company takes raw materials or components
Okay.
and substantially transforms them into a new product in Mexico,
Right.
that new product can enter the U.S. tariff-free.
So it's not enough to just assemble it in Mexico.
Right.
It has to be significantly
You got it.
altered.
Oh, exactly. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say a Chinese company ships wooden boards to Mexico.
Right.
If those boards are just assembled into a basic bookshelf, that doesn't really count as a substantial transformation.
Okay.
But if they are crafted into, let's say, a custom-designed desk
Okay.
with intricate details and added features,
Okay.
boom, now it's a Mexican product,
Got it.
even though the basic material came from China.
It's all about adding that value
Exactly.
in Mexico. That's the key.
Okay, so beyond this loophole, this substantial transformation loophole,
Right.
what else is driving this whole trade shift?
Well, the amount of money, the investment that China is pouring into Mexico, billions of dollars flowing into new factories, industrial parks, joint ventures.
Oh, wow.
I mean, just in 2023 alone, Chinese investment reached $3.7 billion,
Okay.
far exceeding any previous decades.
So they're really putting their money where their mouth is.
They are all in on this.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of how this is playing out?
Yeah, so there's this place, the Hofisan Industrial Park, just north of Monterey.
Okay.
It's a huge hub with over 30 Chinese companies operating there.
Okay.
And we're not just talking manufacturing.
Yeah.
9 Chinese car companies,
All right.
including big names like BYD and Chery, have set up shop in Mexico.
Wow. So it's not just China that's capitalizing on this, is it?
You're right.
I was reading that European companies are getting in on the action as well.
Yeah, companies all over the world are realizing that Mexico is a smart move.
Right.
Lower labor costs.
Yeah.
They see the value in that.
Absolutely.
In 2024, some of the top European importers to Mexico included Pirelli tires and SKF, the Swedish auto parts company.
So what makes Mexico so attractive?
Well, like we said, labor costs in Mexico,
Right.
significantly lower compared to China.
Right.
And then that proximity factor, right?
Yeah.
You share that 2,000-mile border with the U.S.,
Right.
lower transportation costs, faster delivery times.
Makes sense.
And you can't forget about those pre-existing intertwined supply chains.
What do you mean by intertwined?
It means the U.S. and Mexico have this deeply interconnected manufacturing ecosystem.
Got it.
A lot of the components and materials used in Mexican factories actually originate in the U.S.
Okay.
About 40% of the value of goods imported from Mexico comes from U.S.-produced content.
That's a big chunk.
It is, and it shows how integrated the two economies are.
Yeah, it really does.
Makes this whole nearshoring thing even smoother.
I remember reading about North American cars crossing the U.S. border something like 8 times during the production process.
Yeah, it's
It
wild.
just blows my mind.
Shows how complex those supply chains are.
It does.
It's not just about finished products.
Yeah.
It's the constant flow of components, materials,
But it's
expertise.
all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so beyond location and costs, what else is fueling Mexico's rise as this manufacturing powerhouse?
Well, Mexican manufacturing has come a long way.
Okay.
It's not just basic goods anymore. We're
Yeah.
talking sophisticated products.
Look what?
Airplane engines, medical devices,
Okay.
electric vehicles.
Wow.
In fact, Mexico produces 3.5 million vehicles annually,
Wow.
with 76% of those going to the U.S.
Wow. So the top traded goods in June 2024,
Yeah,
vehicles, computers, electrical machinery,
Right.
all high-value stuff.
that's right.
Okay, but all this rapid growth,
Yeah.
this influx of foreign investment,
Yeah.
there have to be some challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Companies are definitely facing roadblocks and risks.
Like what?
Well, security is a major one.
Okay.
On average, 50 cargo trucks are hijacked every single day in Mexico.
Every day.
Every single day.
That's wild.
Yeah. Huge headache for companies
Yeah.
trying to move goods safely.
50 trucks a day.
It's crazy.
What other challenges are they facing?
Well, you've got a looming worker shortage.
Okay.
Experts predict a shortfall of 106,000 truck drivers by 2028.
Wow.
Then you've got rising diesel prices, interest rates are through the roof, water scarcity issues,
Wow.
potential policy shifts.
Yeah. So much to keep track of.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And then there's always that threat of U.S. tariffs.
Right. The elephant in the room.
Exactly. It's a wild card.
Didn't Tesla put their plans for that $5 billion factory in Monterey on hold because of tariff threats?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Former president threatened to put 100% tariffs on vehicles made in Mexico.
Right. Just shows how quickly things can change.
It does.
So even with all these challenges, companies are still investing billions in Mexico.
Yeah.
What does that tell us?
It tells me they see the potential for the
Right.
long term.
Okay.
Mexico's position is only going to get more important.
Yeah, it seems like this U.S.-Mexico trade relationship is evolving rapidly.
Inevitably.
And I think it's more important now than ever
Absolutely.
to understand what's driving these changes
Yeah.
and what it means for all of us.
And that's what we're here to do, right?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So let's take a deeper look at the potential impact of all of this on jobs, on consumer prices,
Yeah.
and even on the global balance of power when we come back.
It's going to kick it
Stay tuned. We just finished talking about all of the advantages
Right.
and all of the challenges that businesses are facing
Yeah.
with trade between Mexico and the U.S.
Yeah.
But now I really want to kind of drill down into what this means for people like me,
Sure.
you know, your average listener who's trying to understand how it all fits together.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are wondering about that.
Yeah.
So if Mexico does become this dominant manufacturing hub for North America,
Right.
it's going to have ripple effects throughout the economy. It's going to affect jobs, consumer prices, even global power dynamics.
Okay, let's break that down.
Okay.
You mentioned jobs first. So what kind of impact are we talking about here?
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay.
On one hand, there's potential for job creation in the U.S.,
Okay.
particularly for businesses that supply components and materials to those Mexican factories.
Okay.
Remember we talked about how 40% of the value of U.S. imports from Mexico actually comes from U.S.-produced content?
Right, right.
So as Mexican manufacturing grows,
Yeah.
the demand for U.S.-made inputs grows too.
So it could be a boost for U.S. suppliers,
Exactly.
potentially leading to more jobs in those sectors.
All right.
But what about those jobs that are lost when manufacturing moves to Mexico?
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin.
Right.
As companies embrace nearshoring,
Yeah.
there is a real risk
Right.
that U.S. manufacturing jobs will be displaced.
Makes you wonder if enough is being done to help those workers,
Yeah.
you know, acquire new skills. I know we talked about a surge in logistics jobs. Do you think those opportunities will be enough?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It depends how quickly these changes happen.
Right.
How proactive we are in preparing the workforce
Yeah.
for the jobs of the future.
Yeah. Complex issue. No easy answers.
Nope.
It's not just about jobs, though, right?
Right.
We have to consider the impact on consumers, too.
Of course.
Is all this nearshoring
Yeah.
going to make the stuff we buy cheaper
Yeah.
or more expensive?
Well, It's hard to say for sure.
Okay.
It's kind of a balancing act.
Right.
You've got lower labor costs in Mexico,
Right.
potentially translating into lower prices,
Right.
reduced transportation costs.
Okay, so there is the potential for things to become more affordable.
Yeah,
That's good news for consumers.
potentially.
There's a but coming, isn't there?
There's always a but.
Yeah.
Doing business in Mexico isn't as cheap as it used to be.
Okay.
Remember we talked about those economic headwinds?
Right.
Rising diesel prices, interest rates, security challenges.
Right.
All those things drive up costs.
So even though labor might be cheaper,
Yeah,
other factors could be pushing prices up.
exactly.
It sounds hard to predict what the impact will be on consumer prices.
It really is.
And then you add in the uncertainty around tariffs.
Right, always looming.
Yeah.
The U.S. could always decide to get tough on goods coming from Mexico,
Right.
especially those with Chinese components.
Yeah. And that could really drive prices up.
For sure.
And make things more expensive for consumers here.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember how Tesla had to put those factory plans on hold
Yeah, good example.
because of those tariff threats?
Yeah, it shows how precarious this whole strategy can be.
It really does.
One policy decision
Yeah.
can really derail everything.
Yeah, the USMCA is up for renewal in 2026.
That's right.
And you can bet that all this trade with China, all these tariff issues,
Oh, yeah.
are going to be front and center in those negotiations.
Absolutely.
It's like a high-stakes poker game.
It is.
With billions of dollars and countless jobs at stake.
So much at stake.
So the U.S.-Mexico trade relationship isn't just about economics.
No.
It's politics. It's geopolitics.
All tied together.
As Mexico strengthens its position
Yeah.
as a manufacturing powerhouse,
Yeah.
it gains more leverage on the world stage.
For sure.
And China, by leveraging Mexico as this backdoor
Yeah.
to the U.S. market,
Right.
gets to maintain its influence
Right.
and avoid those tariffs.
It's a win-win for them.
Seems like it.
It really does.
It's forcing the U.S. to adapt
Yeah.
to a new reality.
For sure.
The days of undisputed U.S. economic dominance are fading.
They are.
We're moving toward this multipolar world
Yeah.
where China, Mexico,
Right.
other players
Yeah.
have more power and influence.
It's a new world order.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's not just about who makes the cheapest widgets anymore.
Yep.
It's about global power
Yeah.
dynamics and who controls the flow of goods and capital in this rapidly changing world.
That's the big picture.
It is. So for everyone listening,
Yeah.
how do you navigate this complex and shifting landscape?
It's a tough question.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to think about
Yeah.
all of these pieces fitting together
Mm-hmm.
and,
Yeah.
how much the world of trade is changing.
It is.
Like you said, right before our eyes.
Yeah. Every day.
You've done a great job explaining all this, by the way.
Oh, well, thanks.
Really complex stuff
I appreciate that.
in a way that makes sense.
It's a topic I love talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for everyone to understand.
Right.
Because it really does affect us all.
It does.
One way or another.
It does. And it brings us back to that question we posed at the very beginning
Yeah.
of this whole deep dive.
Right?
How does all this impact the listener?
That's the key, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
this isn't just about,
Yeah.
economic trends or geopolitics. It's
Right.
about your job.
Right.
It's about your wallet.
Yeah.
The products you buy,
Yeah.
it's about the future you're building for yourself and your family.
So it's personal.
It is.
Yeah.
These global shifts
Yeah.
have very real consequences
They do.
on everyday life.
So as we become more aware of these connections,
Yeah.
what are some questions that we should be asking ourselves?
Well, I think we need to start thinking about where do the things I buy come from?
Oh.
Who made them?
Yeah.
And under what conditions?
Right.
What impact are my purchasing choices having on the world?
Those are really good questions
Yeah.
to be asking.
Good question.
I think that's what makes these deep dives so valuable.
I think so too.
It really encourages us to think critically
Mm-hmm.
about the world,
Yeah,
how we're all connected.
for sure.
So for our listeners out there who are feeling inspired to kind of take action,
Yeah.
what are some things they can do?
Well, first of all, you got to stay informed.
Okay.
Pay attention to the news, read articles,
Yeah.
listen to podcasts like this. Right.
The more you understand these issues,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be
Right.
to make informed choices.
Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
Support businesses that align with your values.
Okay.
Look for companies that are prioritizing fair labor practices,
Okay.
sustainable sourcing,
Right.
ethical manufacturing.
Yeah.
Your dollar.
Yeah.
It,
Voting with your wallet.
exactly.
That's a powerful way to make change.
It really is.
What about more on a personal level?
Sure.
How can individuals adapt?
Be adaptable.
Okay.
Embrace lifelong learning.
Okay.
You know, those jobs of the future
Right.
may look very different
Yeah, they probably will.
from the jobs of today.
Yeah.
Be open to new opportunities,
Right.
develop new skills.
Yeah.
Be willing to,
Yeah.
reinvent yourself.
So being flexible,
Yeah,
embracing change,
exactly.
it's a process.
We're all in this together,
Yeah.
figuring it out.
Yeah. Absolutely, we are.
It's exciting.
It is.
It really is. It's dynamic,
Yeah.
full of challenges,
Yeah.
opportunities. By staying informed,
Yeah.
engaging in these conversations,
Right.
asking the tough questions,
Mm.
being proactive,
Yeah.
we can create a more just and sustainable world.
Well said.
Thank you.
That's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
I think we've given our listeners
I hope so.
plenty to think about today.
A lot to digest.
When it comes to this U.S.-Mexico trade,
Yeah,
it's a really complex and evolving story
absolutely.
with implications that extend far beyond economics.
That's right.
It's about people.
Yeah,
It's about their livelihoods
it is.
and how we're all connected in this globalized world.
Could have said it better myself.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
I enjoyed it.
To all our listeners, thank you for diving in with us.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic.